children, we finished with the law of supply, supply schedule and supply curve, and change in quantity supply and change in quantity, change in supply. Now the next topic that we are going to learn is the elasticity of supply. The elasticity of supply, then different degrees of elasticity of supply, and how to calculate the elasticity of supply. The same topics that we have learned in demand will be repeated here too, but it will be supply instead of demand. Okay. Now the elasticity of supply. How will you explain the elasticity of supply? Just as we have learned in the case of demand, what is elasticity of demand? Degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded of a commodity to a change in the price. How do the consumers respond to the quantity of a commodity when its price changes? Okay. Now when the price increases, his degree of responsiveness will be less, and when the price decreases, his degree of responsiveness will be more. So likewise, we have to explain the elasticity of supply. What is elasticity of supply? It refers to the degree of responsiveness of quantity supplied of a commodity due to a change in the price. So it refers to degree of responsiveness of quantity supplied of a commodity due to a change in the price, which means it shows a degree of responsiveness of producers when the price changes. When the price increases, the responsiveness degree will be, when the price increases, the degree of responsiveness for the producers will be more, and when the price decreases, the degree of responsiveness of producers will be less. Now, just as we have learned for the demand, there are 5 degrees of price elasticity of supply. They are perfectly elastic supply, perfectly inelastic supply, unitary elastic supply, more elastic supply, and less elastic supply. Now let us see the first one, perfectly elastic supply. There are 5 degrees of price elasticity of supply, and the first one is perfectly elastic supply. What is a perfectly elastic supply? Let us see with the help of an example. Perfectly elastic supply refers to a situation where elasticity of supply will be infinity. What do you mean by that? Let us see the example. The price is given as 30, 30 and 30. Supply is given as 100, 200 and 300, which means at a price of 30, 100 is supplied. At a price of 30, again the quantity 200 is supplied. At a price of 30, again the quantity 300 is supplied. So a perfectly elastic supply curve means at the same price different quantities will be supplied by the producer. So when the different quantities of commodities are supplied by the producer at the same price, we say it as perfectly elastic supply, where elasticity of supply is equal to infinity. So supply curve will be parallel to the x-axis. Okay. Now the next degree is the same concept as we have learned in demand. Next is perfectly inelastic supply. Perfectly inelastic supply means price will be different. It will change from 100 to 200, 200 to 300, but the supply will be the same. So quantity supplied remains to be the same at different levels of prices. That is known as perfectly inelastic supply, where elasticity of supply is equal to 0. Next one is unitary elastic supply. Whatever change in the price, the same change in the quantity supplied also can be expected. That is known as unitary elastic supply, which means a proportionate change in the price leads to proportionate change in the quantity supplied. Now here the price is given as 100, 200 and 300. At a price of 100, the quantity supplied is 150. At a price of 200, quantity supplied has increased by 200. At price of 300, quantity supplied has increased by 250. A proportionate increase can be found here. So when we draw the supply curve, you can find, see the supply curve which is upward sloping curve, and the distance you can find, isn't it? It is a proportionate. So here elasticity of supply is equal to 1. Next one is elastic supply or more elastic supply. What do you mean by more elastic supply? Let us learn it from the table. Price is given as 100, quantity supplied is 150. Now normally we know when the price increases, the producers will increase the supply, isn't it? When the price increases from 100 to 150, the producer is increasing his supply from 150 to 300. That means he has doubled the quantity supplied. That means a producer is that much sensitive. With a small change in the price, he is ready to sell more elastic supply. He is very sensitive. A slight change in the price for the product in the market will make him to sell more and more. So here the price change is only from 100 to 150, a change of 50, but he has increased his quantity from 150 to 300. Likewise, from 150 the price has increased to 200 and the quantity supplied has increased from 300 to 450. So more elastic supply. So you can find supply curve is more broader. You can find the supply curve which we have got with the help of this table. And we can see that the supply curve cannot start from the origin. As it is more broader, it starts from the y-axis. That is the point to be noted. In this case, we can say elasticity is greater than 1. Elasticity is greater than 1. Okay. Now, the next one is elasticity, inelastic supply or less elastic supply. What do you mean by that? This can be explained with the help of a table. See, the price is 100 and the quantity supplied is 50. When the price increases from 100 to 200, it has increased from 100 to 200, but the supplier has increased his quantity only by an amount of 25. That means 50 plus 25, that is 75. So here what you have to understand, the supplier is not that sensitive. Even if the price has increased more in the market, he is increasing his supply only from 50 to 75. Supplier is less sensitive, less elastic supply or inelastic supply. So with that, if we draw the diagram, you can find 100 is the price. At that price, 50 is the quantity supplied. QS is the quantity supplied. Always remember, for both demand and supply, if you draw a diagram, quantity demanded or supplied should be marked on the x-axis. Price should be represented on the y-axis. Now, at price 200, he is selling only an amount of 75. So only a small change in the quantity can be found here. So when you join these points, you can find a supply curve. You can find a supply curve like this, and you can see it will not start from the origin. Instead of that, it will start only from the x-axis. It is not broader, it is very narrow, isn't it? See the difference between the last supply curve and the present supply curve. In the last case, for more elastic supply, the supply curve starts from the y-axis. It cannot start from the origin. Now here also, the supply curve cannot start from the origin, it starts from the x-axis. The other one starts at y-axis and here it starts from the x-axis. This is known as inelastic supply, where the supplier is not at all sensitive. Okay. Now these are the 5 degrees of price elasticity of supply, where elasticity is equal to infinity, elasticity is equal to 0, elasticity is equal to 1, elasticity greater than 1, elasticity less than 1. I mean elasticity of supply. Elasticity of supply is equal to infinity when more is supplied at the same price. Elasticity of supply is equal to 0 when same quantity is supplied at different prices. Elasticity of supply is equal to 1 when a proportionate change in the price leads to proportionate change in the quantity demanded. Elasticity of supply is greater than 1 when the proportionate change in the quantity supplied will be more than the change in the price. Okay, and here you can find elasticity of supply is less than 1 when the supplier is supplying only a less increase in the quantity, even if there is a change in the price at more rate. Okay, so these are the 5 degrees of price elasticity of supply. Now the next one is the same way as we have discussed for the demand, how to measure or how to calculate the elasticity of supply. Methods of calculating elasticity of supply. And in the demand we discussed the three methods. One is proportionate, percentage and geometric method. For supply the geometric method is not there, it is deleted. You need to learn only percentage method and proportionate method. As you all know, you are very thorough with the formula here. The proportionate method is delta Q by delta P into P by Q. In that Q will be quantity supplied instead of quantity demanded. That is the only difference. And the percentage method is percentage change in the quantity supplied by percentage change in the price. If it was demand, it will be percentage change in the quantity demanded. But here we are discussing about the supply. Therefore, as for the percentage method, we will find elasticity of supply with the formula percentage change in the quantity supplied by percentage change in the price. And in proportionate method, it is delta Q by delta P into P by Q, where Q represents the quantity supplied. So, this is with regard to the 5 degrees of elasticity of supply and the methods of calculating the price elasticity of supply.